Here's an idea. Animal Crossing preaches Otaku Citizenship. So for the longest time, Animal Crossing was on what my friend Matt calls a Lucille list, things that I do not understand and won't respond to. I thought Animal Crossing was a boring, simplistic, silly game for kids, and I was wrong. So, for the uninitiated, in the new AC game called New Leaf, you arrive in a small country town and are immediately made mayor. I know, it sounds really irresponsible. You don't know the political climate or any of the social issues, but you go with it. I mean, they're animals, so it's a little bit easier than in real life. Right off the bat, you set to the task of meeting everybody and using your mayoral powers to turn this bucolic but boring homestead into a bustling, well-managed mini metropolis. The central mechanics of the game require that you maintain friendships with all of the townspeople by just saying hi and doing small favors, and acquire local, natural resources which you can sell to a merchant or donate to the museum, which is run by an owl named Blathers. The game frames and rewards these actions as the deeds of a good neighbor and an invested mayor, and along the way inspires what I would call a kind of otaku citizenship. So, what does that mean? I'll explain, but let's make sure we're on the same page about what otaku even is. Meaning literally you in Japanese, otaku has come to name a group of people who are very passionate about a particular piece of media or hobby. In the States, we associate otaku with obsessive fans of Japanese culture and anime, but you can be an otaku for pretty much anything. You can be a history otaku, a baseball otaku, and if you want to get nuts, let's get nuts and talk about otaku. And while it can be a stand-in for the word geek, the two are not strictly isomorphic. For instance, otaku tended to exhibit a completionist zeal for consumption and collection not found in a lot of geekdom. They must have and know and see and hear all of the things related to their obsession. For media otaku specifically, this intense involvement isn't necessarily inspired by any thematic significance, like an identification with the message that true love is the secret to happiness, or technology will inevitably contribute to a largely complex, unfair class structure. Rather, otaku can become infatuated with certain characters or objects independent of any actual relationship with pre-existing stories or narrative elements. So like an Ayanami Rei figurine or fanfiction or coaster set or dustpan might not have anything to do with the narrative of Neon Genesis Evangelion. But because it references the Neon Genesis Evangelion universe in some way, it is worth having. Both the object and the act of collection itself become the source of air-punching, celebratory excitement. In his book Otaku, Japanese Database Animals, scholar Azuma Hiroki describes Evangelion, and by extension other otaku-friendly media, as an aggregate of information without narrative, into which all viewers could empathize of their own accord. This is otaku. It is not unquestioning fan devotion or collection for collection's sake, it is somewhere between. It should also be said that casting the entirety of otaku culture as geeks who like to collect things is incredibly reductive, and if we had time to draw more parallels we would, but we don't, so sad face. So what in the world does this have to do with Animal Crossing and citizenship? Glad you asked. Essentially, the point of Animal Crossing is involvement and collection in the absence of narrative. Players work very hard to collect art, bugs, fish, fossils, and fruit from their towns. They can donate everything to the local museum to survey the mammoth collection of awesome things that they have gathered. Or they can sell it all and get them bells. And bells can be spent on public works projects like bridges or cafes, or ordinances like Beautiful Town, which really at their heart are just as much about collection and display as the museum is. And no one does any of this stuff because it advances the plot. There is no plot, no narrative, just objects, just aggregate information. Players collect bugs and fossils and buildings because they are neat and cute, and the act of collection itself is super fun. For example, in my town of Syzygy, I have a pretty solid reputation as a fishing fiend, which is really just an in-game way of saying I collect a lot of fish. Players also collect stuff, and this is the big one, because the townspeople expect them to. Animal Crossing New Leaf asks that you be a perfectly otaku mayor because it makes the town a better place. Beyond the fact that many townspeople are an homage to some very otaku-friendly characteristics, they also hold you to a kind of otaku code of honor, or citizenship. You're gonna collect all of the things, so why not learn from them? And of course respect them in the process, and then display your collection for other people to appreciate and also learn from. Or invest it all back into the place that allowed you to start collecting in the first place. Collect kind and funny friends, not problem citizens, in the process. Collect social interactions and experiences. Take snapshots. This is how Animal Crossing's otaku is different from, say, Pokemon. I mean, sure, there is the gotta catch 'em all mentality of finding all of the cool stuff for your Animal Crossing crib, but in Animal Crossing there is no limited set of things which you must acquire. There is no ending to the story, and it's not really about your progression as a character. The focus really is on on your town. There is a citizen satisfaction survey, for Pete's sake, letting you know how well you're doing collecting all of the improvements. Imagine now for a moment that the real government were run the way it is in Animal Crossing by otaku citizens. Yes, your AC town is a miniature bourgeois hamlet where most people don't work and spend the days wandering around watering flowers and asking what their new catchphrase should be, but the political climate and social issues that you didn't know a thing about when you first arrived? Maybe not even a thing. There's more important collecting and displaying work at hand. Focused entirely on developing infrastructure and maintaining relationships, government starts to look a little different. I mean, other than the fact that it's sort of run by a dog in a dress. And does this mean the kids growing up playing New Leaf will think differently about government? Maybe. At the very least, there'd be more government support for planting fruit and spending days at the beach. What do you guys think? Does Animal Crossing preach otaku citizenship? And can those values have a practical use? Let us know in the comments, and I'll give you one guess about what we're collecting. It's action figures of every subscriber, actually. Is it just me, or did that discussion get a little heated? Let's see what you guys had to say about climate change. Palakis, Acronym 48, and a bunch of other people said that while the discovery of climate change is a great achievement, it has the potential of being dwarfed by whatever the outcome of that discovery is. Let's all just hope that it's a positive outcome. Relatedly, Storm and Norman says that the real achievement is the fact that we were able to industrialize in such a way that we caused climate change to happen. Yeah, I guess that's a kind of achievement. To the 3DD fan and anyone else concerned with the very premise of this video, we were not interested in getting involved in the very thorny debate about whether or not climate change is real, but rather, if it is real, whether or not it is deserving of a certain kind of respect. We do not mean to call into question anybody's beliefs about whether or not climate change is true or caused by people. Rather, we wanted to approach a very specific topic critically. And I think that this is a really important task in critical thinking, a really important tool to be able to hold on to an idea that you do not necessarily believe in order to see where its logical conclusion goes. Whether or not starting at that sort of 2 steps in point was irresponsible of us, I don't think so. Some other people clearly do. David Pertucci 524 says that our greatest scientific achievement actually is the discovery of fire, which actually I wonder whether or not the discovery of fire counts as science. Which that might just be like asking whether or not cave paintings count as art, but I think it's an interesting question. DJ Frenemy and Tave the Thrasher say that putting a man on the moon and evolutionary theory, respectively, are our greatest scientific achievements for the same reason that we said that the discovery of climate change is a great scientific achievement, that there were all of these systems that came together to make those discoveries happen, which is a very fair point. Finally, Sarah Brewer brings up some really interesting points about maybe the myth of objectivity in the sciences, which is a thing I've been doing a lot of reading about. It's very interesting. We'll put a small reading list in the description if you're interested. This week's episode was brought to you by the tireless work of these very tired individuals, with a special shout out to Joe Hansen from It's Okay to Be Smart for fielding some of my science-y questions. This week's Tweet of the Week comes from Sam Thomas, who points us towards a Tom Bacon video about communicating with the future about ecological disasters. It is sobering.